Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and go back to the Arizona Cardinals for a little bit. As we all know, this season is going to be an extremely lost season. Kyler Murray will not be playing. He has the potential to come back at midseason, but will the Arizona Cardinals bring him back if they're already having a losing record at that point? Might as well try to tank for a higher draft pick. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. Now they don't necessarily have a wide receiver one. Their wide receiver one is Marquise Brown. And as Big H mentioned, Caleb Williams is in this upcoming draft. And if the Arizona Cardinals are looking to rebuild, what move should they make, in order for them to jumpstart their rebuild? Like, because they have Kyler Murray under center right now, and we all know the contract that he received from the Arizona Cardinals. I think it was maybe last offseason. And now they're in a situation where they have the potential to get the number one overall pick and potentially a top 10 pick from the Houston Texans. And so do they keep Kyler Murray, maybe move off the number one overall pick and like the Bears did, or do they just move off from Kyler, draft Caleb, and then go about it like that?
I think they should just decide to stick with Kyler Murray. I mean, you handed him an extension, and I do believe Kyler Murray is obviously a very talented player. Don't get me wrong. When I view him talent-wise, I mean, the ability to get out the pocket, the arm strength, and the zip on his throws. Multiple years where he started off the season hot. He was in MVP discussions, and then later on, injuries caught up, and a lot went through those seasons with the Arizona Cardinals. But when I look at Kyler Murray, I think that they're better off just keeping him and kickstarting their franchise off with the high-end defensive talent, maybe picking up an offensive lineman or talent at the wide receiver position. I mean, when you have guys like Marvin Harris Jr., like guys like that don't come often. I mean, he's one of the highest graded college wide receivers we've seen, guys since Jamar Chase, since Julio. Those type of talents don't come often at the wide receiver position. So, when you have two picks that can go that high, I feel like they can go for a position where they can go for a defensive end, or they can go for a high-end defensive talent, and they can go for a guy like Marvin Harris Jr. If possible. I think keeping Kyler Murray is probably the best decision at this point. I think they know what they're going to get out of Kyler Murray, and they have seen flashes of what they want from Kyler Murray. It's just him putting the pieces together and then just keeping him healthy and him being able to fix on issues like his issues are not necessarily talent. It's more so outside of talent. It's more so of his attitude and his work ethic. But when it comes to talent, I think Kyler Murray, he's very, very extremely talented young quarterback. It's just issues outside of that I have problems with. 2020, 2021, like I mentioned, he started off the season hot. Same thing. They slowed down. But I would keep him, and then I would just draft two different types of talent that this team need. I mean, at the end of the day, they're devoid of talent. And I don't think it's really at the quarterback position. I think it's everywhere else. I mean, when J.J. Watt left, he was probably their best defensive player outside of Budda Baker. So I think that's what they need to target.
Yeah, they just picked Kyler Murray. I don't think it's an opportunity to trade him. I don't know what you're gonna get back. I mean, you look at the market. I don't think he goes for first round. To me, it's like it's a waste of a pick, waste of a trade if you trade him. It's a whole lot of money for me. It's like, hey, might as well just keep him. You get the first pick. You load up on the defensive talent. You have the Texans' first-round pick. You fix up your O-line, or you stack up on draft picks, and essentially you just rebuild in the drafts. Hopefully, some people come during free agency, but you don't have to waste another first-round pick in the quarterback after how long Murray been on the team? 4 to 5 years. Hasn't been a while, and he's not a top 5 quarterback. I mean, he got paid top 5 quarterback money, but you got to take the losses where you got the losses at. You lose J.J. Watt, you lose DeAndre Hopkins, you lose almost everybody on this team. It's time to rebuild. Keep Kyler Murray. You get 2 first-round picks, and then that's where you started off at. So I don't essentially think they should trade him. I mean, Caleb Williams is crazy talent, but what does that fix for the team?
I'm actually just very distraught. I really can't believe what I'm hearing right now. You guys are pretty much saying if they land the number 1 overall pick, and we all know the consensus number 1 pick is going to be Caleb Williams, you guys are saying that the Cardinals got to go in a different direction.
Yeah. I'm saying that they should just keep Kyler Murray and just go for two
Yeah.
other positions.
I'm not too entirely sold on that, man. I mean, I think about it like this. I think obviously we're hearing reports about, this Caleb Williams guy from USC. Obviously, we've been hearing it for a couple of years now, and obviously he has the opportunity to enter the draft next year. And so, people are saying this is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. We all know how special of a quarterback Andrew Luck was when he entered the league. And so the way that I'm looking at it is, if you're able to land the number 1 overall pick, and obviously Kyler Murray, even if he doesn't play this upcoming season, it's really going to come down to their new head coach, who I believe is Gannon from the Philadelphia Eagles, the old defensive coordinator. It's really going to come down to who he really wants under center, because obviously they pay Kyler Murray all that money, and if they end up just moving him off to a different franchise, it's a huge salary dump. And so you essentially draft Caleb Williams, who's going to be on a cheaper contract and who could be potentially better than Kyler Murray. And so I think it makes 100% makes so much sense for them to just do that, instead of just kind of keep that number 1 overall pick, keep Kyler Murray, and pretty
I
much
mean,
draft it at a position of need.
who says they have to keep the number 1 overall pick? They can get a haul for that number 1 overall pick, if anything. How many teams do you think would be desperate to have Caleb Williams?
A lot of teams, but the thing is, though, this guy's they're saying he's one of the best prospects coming out of
That's my point, though. If his hype is that high, right, and I agree with his hype, I think the guy is an absolutely phenomenal quarterback. If you're in that top 5 or you're in that top 10, and you're like, okay, my quarterback position is particularly great right now, you're looking at that number 1 overall pick like, yo, what can I give up? And the Cardinals, if they get that number 1 overall pick, they have all the leverage in the world. So a team is going to end up giving up a haul if they want that number 1 overall pick. It's like, think about how much the Texans had to give up to have 2 picks in the top 5. So now imagine the Cardinals. This is for a number 1 overall pick. This is for a Caleb Williams. They're going to give up a haul for that. So I think if you want to fast track a rebuild, that's the best way to do it. A team is going to end up giving up a haul, and I don't think it's as simple as moving off of Kyler Murray's contract. I think it's a bit trickier than that. And from what it seems like, from what Jonathan Gannon said, it seems like their target is to win games. But at the end of the day, I don't really believe that. I think that they're going to end up losing enough games to get that number 1 overall pick. But if you're a top 5 team, you're going to end up eyeing that number 1 overall pick and thinking, okay, I'm going to give up a haul to get Scott Caleb Williams. So I just think that's what the Cardinals should do.
Okay, the thing is, though, we're looking at every team in the league at this point, because now the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock at number 1. That number one overall pick is available. What team really needs a quarterback like that? Looking at the AFC East, the Bills got their quarterback, the Dolphins got their quarterback, the Patriots, there's some potential there. We'll say that's one. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers, they're not taking anybody. Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, the potential is there too. So that's 2 teams. Broncos are going to keep Russ. Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, and Browns are not going to move off from any of their quarterbacks. Jaguars, Colts, Texans, not going to move off from their quarterbacks. Titans they're probably another potential team that might want to move up in the draft. Now we move on to the NFC. Eagles, Cowboys, Giants. I'm very hesitant to say the Commanders, but that depends on Sam Howell and what he does. But it's a potential team, so we'll go ahead and put that in there. Niners, no. Seahawks, no. Rams, no. And then obviously the Cardinals are on the clock. Vikings, I don't see us making a move like that. Lions, I can't see it. Green Bay.
Why can't you see the Lions? Or is that because of the games that they're going to win?
Yeah, because I think the Lions are going to win a little. I think the Lions are going to be just fine. I think Jared Goff is.
My thing is, though, it's like
in the world.
It's like team situations change throughout the year. Like, a lot of stuff can happen. Whether that's injuries, they pick up injuries, or a team that you didn't expect to be like. Let's say, for example, the Rams are just dog shit. Like, that's a potential as well. But I don't know if they have their pick this year. In the first round, I'm not too sure about that. Those guys leverage their future for that Super Bowl. But let's say there's potentially a team that unexpectedly that you didn't think that was going to lose that many games. They lose games, and already the teams that you mentioned, and there's a lot of team dynamics that can just change throughout the year. So Like I think teams would be willing. Like if you're in the top 5, you're gonna be like, yo, like what do the Cardinals want for that number 1 overall pick if it's Caleb Williams? Like I think teams would be willing to move up a lot just to get that number 1 pick.
Hypothetically speaking, if the Arizona Cardinals get that number 1 overall pick and they aren't able to find a suitor and a buyer for Kyler Murray
at the price that they're looking for.
Yeah, at the price that they're looking for. Do you think that they still use that number 1 overall pick on Caleb Williams and have him just battle it out with Kyler Murray?
I don't think they do that just because, I mean, didn't they have a situation with Josh Rosen where they drafted Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray came?
Let's not utter Josh Rosen and
like,
Caleb Williams in the same sentence, man.
No, I'm saying they had the same situation like that. You drafted a guy that high just to replace him the following year. I mean, I don't think that's something that they didn't want to do.
But see, here's the thing, though. The reason why they did that was because Cliff Kingsbury was a new head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, and Josh Rosen wasn't his guy. And so he saw an opportunity and said, I'm going to go get myself a better quarterback, and I don't think it's going to be a battle at all. Kyler Murray's my guy. He was the best quarterback in that draft class, and Josh Rosen is going to have to suffer. And so,
I mean, how much sense does it make to have 2 guys battle it out when you gave one an extension just a year ago?
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals will do that, but I just think Caleb Williams is too good of a prospect to pass up on. You know, like even if you get a haul for him, even if you get a haul for that number 1 overall pick, I'm not too sure if that haul is going to be a lot better than what Caleb Williams is going to be as a quarterback in the NFL when he comes in from day 1. And so that's just my only issue with it. And also, I just honestly don't know if Kyler Murray is Gannon's guy. Like, if I just don't know if Gannon is gonna see enough of Kyler Murray this upcoming season to determine, like, hey, you know, Kyler Murray is my guy for the future. Let's go ahead and try to move off from this number 1 overall pick so we can get some more assets, kind of like what the Bears did with Justin Fields. So Justin Fields was their guy. No need for that number 1 overall pick. Let's go try to get some weapons and some more draft capital. And so, but in order for the Bears, they've seen Justin Fields on tape. They got some sort of tape on Justin Fields, and so they made that decision on themselves, saying like, "Yo, we don't need a quarterback. We're just gonna stick with him." I'm just not sure if Gannon is gonna use film from years before he got there to make that decision.
To be fair, I mean, there's a huge gap between Caleb Williams and the quarterbacks that came out of this year. Like, if Caleb Williams was in this draft, like there'd probably be more of a. Like, I think I'd lean way more to Caleb Williams over a guy like Justin Fields because the tape, at least Kyler Murray has that 2020 tape, that 2021 tape, though, when they were starting off 7-0, 6-0, whatever it is. I just feel like you gave a guy an extension a year ago. Like, it doesn't make much sense after a year of giving this guy an extension just to be like, okay, let's deal him for however great of a talent Caleb Williams is. It's like you already had your like how you already built your team around what you wanted for Kyler Murray, and you already have an idea of what he's gonna be. If you draft and I feel like the Cardinals, they do rate Kyler Murray highly to be able to give him that contract. And so I just think like this team that's like completely devoid of talent, like you can start in multiple positions, and if anything, if you get a haul for that number 1 overall pick, a lot of teams would be hunting for it. So that's like a huge way to just rebuild your roster at one point, you know.
I completely get it. I just personally feel like, man, Caleb Williams is just too good of a prospect to pass up on. But it would make sense in their situation to use that number 1 overall pick as leverage to any of these franchises that might be desperate once the season is over.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Yes, now late, now that's overkill.